Hey there, saltwater angler, and welcome to the Lower Chesapeake Bay Fishing Report, bringing you the current fishing report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. Now let's take a moment and learn who's making this show possible, and then we'll jump into the reports. Hooked on fishing? Then you're part of the local community that Long Bay Point Bait and Tackle cares about serving and giving back to, providing you with the right selection for each season's target species. They're your one-stop shop to gear up with the best bait, tackle, and insider tips to catch your next trophy fish. You can fuel up right out front on the water and then chat with the crew inside for hot tips on where they're biting. So swing by today. Long Bay Point Bait and Tackle, where your fishing adventures start and finish with your trophy catch on their scales. Listen up. AFTCO has a promotional gift for all Great Days Outdoors Podcast Network listeners. They're now offering a camo sunglasses cleaner cloth with any purchase of AFTCO products. For those cold, wet, or windy days, I especially enjoy my weatherproof fabric barricade jacket, as well as my Helm insulated fishing gloves. All you got to do to get your coupon code is text LCBFR to 779 345-2918. You'll get subscribed to our email list, and we'll send you the promo code via email. All right, y'all, welcome to this week's show, part of the Great Days Outdoors Podcast Network. I'm your host, Luke Barton, and each week we're going to be talking with local charter guides to learn about what's biting in our local waters and try to gain some useful insights from their expertise. We encourage every angler listening to this show to do their part in sustainable fishing practices, helping to keep this amazing fishery we have healthy and thriving for generations to come. While winter in the lower Chesapeake can make for some tough fishing conditions, there's still plenty of trophies to go out there and target. So, time for the report. Let's jump on in and find out what's been biting. All right, y'all, welcome to this week's show. I posted a picture of this fish in the Facebook group, and it has gotten quite a bit of attention. So I figured we got to come talk to the man that caught it and understand what went on. So we're going to welcome back to the show, good friend of the show, Captain Merrick Myers with Heads and Tails Charters. How we doing, Captain Merrick?
Good, buddy. How you doing?
Doing good, man. It's starting to feel a little bit warm out. In fact, I was just over checking on the boat, and man, she had all kinds of water in the belly. I guess uh, thinking about what Andrew Kaiser said last week on the show about preseason maintenance, I should have gone and tested my auto bilge switches. They were not working, and my boat bilged water for about a solid 10 minutes. It was not a good feeling. I ran into Captain Austin McDonald. With from the mistress over there at Long Bay Point, and he was like, "Hey, your boat's looking a little low." He was right, it sure was. So,
Hey.
yeah, not a good feeling. You ever been there?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think it.
Especially when it gets cold like it has been. I was talking to Mike Roby from Hooked on Hope. He has that small skiff,
Hmm.
and he called me saying he can't get anything to work on it. None of the electronics will work. And I was like, well, those little skiffs, the batteries are out in the open on the back. And I was like, when we had our whaler, we went through the same thing. And I mean, you get one snow, that's bad enough. Like that would kill a cell on a battery in a heartbeat. You
Yeah,
get a couple of snows and a couple cold days,
yeah.
and then you got a draw like an auto bilge kicking on.
Hmm. That can be too much.
Yeah, it'll kill a cell on a battery, and the battery's dead. I mean, he bought the battery last year,
Oh
so
wow. Yeah, I think
that's
with mine, I've got to get out and actually clean up. I think it's a contacting thing. So when you get like a sludge buildup down there in the bilge area, it doesn't necessarily contact as well. So I got to look into that. If anybody's listening and knows the pro move, shoot us an email, Luke Barton at greatdaysoutdoors.com, and let me know. But definitely a good reminder to check those systems and make sure that they're actually working. But nobody wants to hear about bilge pumps not working. We want to hear about this fish. So talk me through it, man. I'm looking at this picture of this gigantic 39-inch striper. I mean, what kind of a trip were you on? Were you on your new skiff or the existing boat? What were you guys doing, and how did you run into this gigantic striper?
well. We were on my existing skiff, a little 22-foot bay boat.
Yep.
We were just running around like a lot of people. Like if you saw the water this past weekend, I mean, we had extreme low tides, so a ton of
Hmm.
stuff was high and dry. So we had to do a lot of running around and a lot of running aground.
Oh yeah. Places that you weren't expecting it to be that shallow. And what causes it to be that shallow? Is it a certain moon phase or this time of year? What causes that?
I've always noticed at this time of year, I don't really know what causes it, but typically that's how I know spring's coming because all the water will empty out and it gets super, super clear. And
Hmm.
we have opportunities to sight fish, redfish right before anything else. And that's that was our main target Sunday.
Hmm.
But it's cool to see how much bait and other life is already moving around in the river. We were seeing blue crabs on the bottom and plenty of menhaden.
But now that were these menhaden mature menhaden or like the little teeny fingerlings that we saw in the fall, like when we were shrimping?
Sadly, these were the ones that were like they were the size of the ones we would want to throw at cobia. They were probably 10 inches or so.
Oh wow,
Big,
very big.
big, big menhaden.
And you're talking about the Lynnhaven River, how it gets super low and super clear, and the clarity is driven what by the water temperature being so cold that all that
Yeah, all
algae
that
and whatnot.
stuff falls to the bottom.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
It's always interesting to see it like that because you're so used to it just basically being brown, churned up water, and then to
yeah,
see,
guessing everywhere you go.
yeah, and then to see basically Florida clear water in Virginia Beach and the river is like really, really cool, especially when you're riding around, you're seeing things on the bottom that you didn't know were there and this, that, and the other. Um, so
It's even
where,
cooler when you go around and you see like stuff that in the summertime you snagged, and you're like, it
ah,
all comes into play this time of year where it's like, I've snagged stuff here. I don't know what it is. It's real small, and then all of a sudden you find it. It's like one of those Adirondack chairs that are sitting on the bottom that have a ton of oysters on it.
oh my gosh.
Or you roll up and it's, I mean, I got two spots on a flat that I know that are some old ghost pots.
A ghost pot?
Yeah, this decrepit crab pots that are
Oh, yeah.
just sitting on the bottom collecting crud.
Mm.
They do a lot of collecting on a lot of other people's mirror lures. I tell you what,
Oh, I'm
there's a
sure.
couple of them that I mean I get that are just loaded with mirror lures.
Because it's like in a spot that's kind of a
It's
popular
off
spot to throw.
point on
Yeah.
a depth change and a
Mm.
current break. Perfect spot to throw a mirror lure.
Speaking of things to get caught on, I go back in my mind when we had Captain Matt Baldwin on the boat. We were shrimping back there in the Western Branch. And what was it that we pulled up that was in his net?
Oh, that was an old outboard motor.
An
Like
outboard, a
old,
whole
like
outboard
small.
motor. Yeah, that was
It's probably
wild.
like eight or 10 horsepower.
That was one of the most unexpected things that I've ever seen happen on a fishing trip, like period, in terms of like what could possibly be in this net that has him so snagged. And you would think an anchor or
Two
uh,
stomp, something like that.
anything else other than an entire outboard motor. Like, what are the odds of that? It just blew my mind. But all right, so you're in clear water, tide's low. What time of day was it when you guys were out there?
Okay, I picked them up at. So I fished that morning with a charter, um, eight to. I think I pulled the plug on that one at like 1:30,
Hmm.
and then called some good friends of mine. Um, told them to, hey, it's a pretty day, can't really waste it. Let's go fish.
Yeah.
And they brought their two kids that fish with me a lot in summer. Um, so basically, we left the dock at probably two,
Hmm.
2:15 maybe.
And what were you guys throwing in terms of were you all lures, live bait,
Yeah, all lures.
all lures?
Um,
Okay.
this time of year, it's if they're not going to eat a lure, they won't eat a live bait. I tried shrimp that morning, tried bait that morning. Probably saw over 1,000 fish.
Mm. Redfish?
Yeah,
Yeah.
over just
Wow.
tons of them. Just every end of the creek, everywhere that was shallow.
And were they behaving like that day that we talked to you and Rudy, where they were just super lethargic and cold, or were they just what would you think was the reason they weren't really eating?
And it's hard to say. I mean, the water temps Sunday. I mean, when we first got out, they were in the high 40s,
Mm.
and by 9 o'clock, I was finding creeks that were close to 60 degrees.
Oh
I
wow.
don't understand why they weren't eating like they normally do. Um, I think it
Maybe
was because the fish were spread out and they didn't have a like, hey, if that guy eats, I'm gonna eat type attitude.
Hmm.
Um,
I was thinking it could be because perhaps they've started attending the same school of thought that the cobias go to, which is just some days we just don't eat, period.
yeah, I mean that's a lot of people that this time of year they want to go do the sight fishing because I mean it's so cool. It's one of the coolest things you can do in Virginia Beach. Um, you can do it pretty much anywhere that there's clear water right now.
Right.
There's no rhyme or reason to them. You just be cruising along a mud flat, and all of a sudden there's 40 fish, 50 fish, 100 fish right in front of you. And
It
it's
is
just like, all right,
exciting.
cast at one. Like you got to pick one out of it and try to put a jig in front of that one fish. And then I don't know. Some days the whole school tries to eat the jig and nobody gets it, you know.
Hmm.
And
A
then you have
big
other days,
explosion of water.
yeah, it's just a bunch of fish trying to pile onto one jig. And then other days it's like one or two will slowly come over, stare at it, and you'll have one pick it up.
Mm.
That's how it was on Sunday.
And you said you guys were throwing artificials. Were you throwing swim baits? What were you throwing specifically?
So this time of year we really scale down. Typically like eighth ounce or lighter.
Hmm.
Jig head with a either like a fluke, a shrimp type jig, or a like bass fishing Ned rig.
Okay. Yeah, I remember you mentioning the Ned rig before. Yeah. That's a cool looking lure. It's kind of that like stumpy worm,
Yeah, it doesn't do anything. It
right?
just it's just there. And for some reason that thing really attracts the fish this time of year. I guess because it's small and
Hmm.
easy to pick up,
Uh-huh.
but works. So
Yeah.
keep doing it.
So then talk me through like seeing this big striped bass and actually hooking it and catching it. I mean, when you talk about seeing over 1,000 redfish and they're kind of being lazy and not eating, like talk me through the moment that you saw this fish. Like what went through your mind? What did you think it was? Where did you see it? How deep was it?
I mean, it might have been a foot. Might have been.
Oh
It
wow.
was chasing. It was chasing a couple redfish up into like an inch of water at the end of this creek, and I mean, it would look like a shark attack. It was just a bunch of white water and fish flopping around,
Jeez.
and we didn't know what it was. Because at first the fish looked brown. Um,
Did you think it was a cobia?
I mean, kinda. At first, like the first thing you see is a large fish with kind of a forked tail and rolling around in the flats. It's kind of brownish. It's
I
kind of the
mean,
wrong time of year, so it's like it's not, but it looks. But it was just covered in all this sea lice and leeches and stuff.
oh, interesting.
But I just put a jig in front of it and smoked it. One of the young kids on the trip hooked that thing on one of my trout rods with a 2500.
Oh my goodness. How long was
Yeah,
that fight?
I don't know, 5 minutes or so.
I bet he pulled like a freight train. It's interesting too to think about you mentioned that the fish was loaded with like leeches and lice. Why do you think that is? Like, is it just because of where they are in the body of water, or does it have something to do with maybe them like kind of just sitting around lazy and not moving much?
I don't know. It's hard because it's probably the worst I've seen it in the last I don't know 6 7 years since really dialing in this early season fishery.
Hmm.
And the leeches the past couple years I've seen like every now and then you'll get one or two fish where it's real bad.
Yeah,
But it seems like every fish this time of year or this year that we've caught is covered in the leeches and the sea lice.
interesting. And that's redfish too, not just this one striper.
That that's redfish, the trout that I've seen. I mean, everything's had them. It's weird.
Interesting. Interesting. Man, that's still, I mean, leeches or not, it's still just amazing to see a fish that big way back inside of Lynnhaven. You guys got her netted. You took a beautiful picture holding her up, by her belly, horizontal. What did your charter think when they actually like saw it in the boat?
I think Jake said, "Wow, that's nice."
Do you
He's
think he
one of the
under?
most,
You think he
most down to
unders?
earth kids. Um, it's just really funny the whole circumstance because it was the lack of excitement, but like you could tell he was excited to have it in the boat.
Right, right.
He's like, "Oh, this is cool. This is
Yeah,
big. How do I pick it up?" And I was like, "All right,
yeah. The specialness of it is reminding me of that giant flounder that got away with us that day we were out there with Luke Burnham and you and I, and we were just like, trying to catch, I think, trout, and then next thing you know, there's this like 10-pound doormat flounder on his line. And we thought he was snagged at first. And, it's one of those things like, had we gotten that fish in, just like the striped bass, like you wonder, like, does everyone on board really understand just how special what was just caught is? I mean, I would
yeah."
love to see some sort of statistic on like over the last 50 years, how many striped bass on record over 30 inches have been caught, inside the Lynnhaven River. And I would bet it's like a really, really small number.
I would say that size fish, really small number.
Yeah.
But I know, I want to say it was last year. Somebody caught one. I was talking to Connie and Brady at the
Yeah.
tackle shop that morning about it because they asked me about it because this was the same time of year that one was caught, and
Hmm.
I want to say that one was 40 inches. It was massive
Jeez.
back in like I want to say towards the Cavalier,
Okay. And what
which
year did
makes
they?
more sense because it's deeper water, it's faster, and there's
Right.
typically a lot more bait back there. So I mean, that's where a big fish would go.
That
Where
makes
we
sense.
were was not where big fish go. It's where like 15 to 20-inch redfish normally would be, and a foot or so of water where you got to trim the motor up on the back of the boat just to troll the motor across spots.
Right. Just to get there.
And I mean, it was in that picture, the trolling motor is nearly out of the water, but it was sitting on the bottom. So that was basically a expensive power pole at that point. Um, I mean, there
That's
was
wild.
no water in that creek,
That is wild.
but
Uh,
it had a deep entrance and it had
well,
bait in there, which was surprising.
and I mean, you guys are going back there obviously to target puppy drum. And so thinking about like expectation wise, like if you were thinking about targeting striped bass inside of Lynnhaven, like you were saying, you'd go to that deeper water, right?
Deeper water, somewhere that has a ton more bait. Um, Typically those striped bass are kind of lazy this time of year in here. So I mean,
Hmm.
I have a few spots that there's a good likelihood we'll catch one, but it could honestly be this time of year just another redfish, you know.
Right. And
Um,
it's funny because I haven't thought about, fish in a long time, but that fish I believe would be over the legal limit size, right? The legal limit size for the coastal season is what, January 1st through March 31st, and it has to be 28 to 36 inches.
yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
So obviously that fish got to swim away, but that would have certainly made quite a few fish tacos at that size.
It was fat. That was probably one of the thickest 30 some inch rockfish I've seen in a
Hmm.
long while.
Yep. And
And the fact
rockfish
that it was just actively eating back there, it just amazed me.
chasing 12-inch redfish is wild to think about. I mean, that's a very voracious appetite for a striped bass to go after a 12-inch puppy drum. But we're actually going to be chatting a little bit later today with Ava Bourne, who is putting on a puppy drum, tight lines for tiny fighters as a school project. So folks are going to be, interested in to learn how to, target these puppy drum, especially if they're going to be, competing in that here in early April. But if you were to be in a puppy drum tournament, I'm just curious, what would be your kind of go-to thought process to try to get the heaviest three fish stringer?
Oh man. Um, Probably throw the bigger baits
Hmm.
and not tend to look for the big schools like we've been doing. Typically the big schools that has the smaller fish in it.
Okay.
So like 18 the well, no, 15 to 20, 21 inchers.
Okay. Got it. So
But
look for bigger fish that are by themselves and more what in spots where a predator might hang out.
Yeah, typically like on a summer fall pattern somewhere on a long shoreline or something.
Okay.
Oyster beds, stuff like that, because they're going to be looking for crabs that
Got
time
it.
of year.
Got it.
Typically, a lot of people do well on like cut blue crab.
Hmm. Oh, like literally cut blue crab inside the Lynnhaven River for redfish.
Yeah,
Got it. Okay. And what kind of rig would you use for blue crab that's cut?
Carolina rig, like 3/4 ounce weight, or well, Lynnhaven's set so vastly different in spots. You could be using an 1/8 ounce weight in one spot, have to use a 3 ounce weight in another.
You're right. That takes me back to when we targeted those bluefish in the main channel. We were back in the back of the Western Branch, fishing light, and then when we got back up to the front, we had to go up to what was it, ounce, 2 ounce to get those things on the bottom during the moving tide.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was fun. When did those big blue chopper bluefish come back again?
Typically mid-April, um, mid-April, definitely by May.
Okay, got it. Well, obviously, it's been a big transition for you going from the intense nature of trailing your boat all the way down to, Oregon Inlet to go out and chase giant bluefin tuna to hopping on the skiff on nice calm water in the back river of Lynnhaven and chase these redfish and striper. But if you could pick one of the two to do on any given day, which would it be?
For to go chase during that day specifically.
Yeah, if you could take your pick, hop on the boat, go out and chase a bluefin tuna, or hop in the skiff and have a shot at a 39-inch striper on light tackle, what you gonna be doing?
That's hard. Honestly, I'd probably try. I mean, probably go for the blue tuna.
I
Um,
thought I thought you might say that.
yeah. It, I mean, we go so much for the redfish this time of year. It kind of plays out early for us.
Yeah.
But I mean, I still love to do it. I still love to take people, but like typically when I first start in like mid-February, I'll fish a lot with people,
Hmm.
like fish alongside them, just to make sure we're not missing anything. And by about this time of year, when the water's super clear and super shallow, I just sit there and run the trolling motor, stand on the console, and point fish out. Just be like, yeah, right over there.
Hmm.
Oh,
Yep.
did I wish I caught that rockfish? Yeah.
Oh, so your charter caught it. That's right. So the young
Yeah.
man was able to throw the jig, get hooked up, and get that thing all the way in. How fast was it an aggressive bite or was it a
Yeah,
let
it
me
was
check this
instant.
out instant?
It was
Okay.
instant. It hit the water and started going.
Man, that's
I
awesome.
think that fish was in there just eating anything that moved.
Where was it hooked inside the mouth? In the lip or deeper?
Deeper, like on the top of the roof of the mouth, right after it gets hard, like
Yeah.
almost in the gut.
Oh wow.
Because we're using
Okay,
like
so
a little baby Ned rig head with a Z-Man shrimp.
okay, got it. Now
Uh,
those Z-Man shrimp, they come pre I'll say seasoned, scented, right?
no,
No,
no
okay.
business.
Do you add scent to them like a Procure gel?
Depending on how the fish are reacting that day, yeah.
Okay.
If the fish are real active and real hungry, I mean, like
Doesn't matter.
most summertime, never,
Yeah.
never even touch it.
Yeah.
Um, this time of year when they're super picky and every now and then you get one that follows it around and looks at it and looks at it and looks at it, and like when you stop it, I guess it doesn't have the scent. Um, this time of year you kind of have to.
Yeah. Well, it definitely gets me excited about, it's been a long winter. We had all that snow, but it's just cool to hear that some fish activity is starting to happen again because I know I'm sure many others are just itching to get back out there and just cast a line and enjoy not freezing their butts off and hopefully have something to go after. So, are you going to be running lots of these inshore trips over the next, couple weeks, month?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Awesome.
this is typically our best time of the year to have like I like to say 50 plus fish days.
Mm.
Um, but then you struggle on the next day, that type of deal. It's weird. Every
Right.
day is different.
You
Either
got
way, you still get to see a ton of fish. Um, it's almost like cobia fishing at that point where you cast at 100 of them and you get one.
yeah, that's fun. Do you wear your typical cobia colored like amber glasses, or do you wear a different color for this inshore clear water?
I use the same amber ones.
Same amber.
Tends
Okay.
tends to help make that blue tail they have pop because a lot of times they're sitting on like dirty patches,
Hmm.
and a lot of times you can only see the only reason that you see them is they'll sit there and their tails like this,
Like just shimmering.
yeah, shimmering, and that blue catches the light really well.
Ah, okay. Got it. Well, if folks are listening to this, and getting very jealous of the chance at a 39-inch striper on a 2500 reel, what's the best way they can get up with you and get booked to hopefully go have a similar experience potentially, or at least the chance of it?
There's always a chance anytime you leave the dock, but
That is true.
they can either book me through my booking page, which is through Valley Pro, or they
Hmm.
can call or text me
All right. And what's that number?
757-573-9569.
Awesome. Well, Captain Eric, thanks for hopping on and sharing about that. It was really cool to see the picture pop up. I think myself and many, many others were just curious to know how the heck did you get a hold of that fish. So it was really cool to get to walk through that adventure. And what was the young man's name that caught the fish?
Jake.
Jake. Jake, if you're listening, congratulations, man. That's a hell of a fish. You should be very, very proud. And hopefully they left you a gigantic tip that's same size as that striper because that's truly something special. But thanks for being on, man. Always a pleasure. Appreciate you.
Yeah, man, no problem.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to take a break and hear a couple of words from some of our great sponsors that keep the show free for you guys each week. And then when we come back, we're going to be chatting with Miss Ava Bourne to learn a little bit about tight lines for tiny fighters. Cap Barrick, be good, man. We'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you, buddy. Look forward to fishing with you this summer.
Yeah, man. Me too. It'll be here before we know it.
Yep.
All right. Cheers. Did you know every 40 seconds someone has a heart attack or stroke? In that moment, every second counts and every critical decision matters. Air Medcare Network's air ambulance providers can provide life-saving care directly to those in need at a moment's notice. With 320 locations across 38 states, they're the largest air ambulance membership network. Rest assured, they've got you and your entire household covered. Membership is just $99 a year or just $79 for seniors. Visit gdo.deals/airmedcare to enroll. Tired of battling salt corrosion on your boat, trailer, and reels? Meet Salt's Gone, your ultimate solution. This powerful, instantly acting chelating agent tackles salt and brine with ease, featuring corrosion inhibitors to protect against future damage and surfactants for a thorough clean. Salt's Gone is pH neutral, making it safe for all boat materials, metal, glass, paint, vinyl wraps, and more. Highly concentrated, just 1 gallon creates 100 gallons of ready-to-use solution. Apply it with or without running water. It's perfect for any situation. Use code GREATDAYS10 to save 10% at saltsgone.com. Or if you need faster delivery, use Amazon or your favorite retailer. All right, guys, like we were talking about before the break, Captain Merrick's talking about how to catch redfish, and then we're going to be chatting with our friend Ava, who is the daughter of the one and only Josh Bourne. Welcome to the show, Ava. Excited to have you on.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. When you and your dad reached out and said, "Hey, we're going to be doing this, this cool fundraiser fishing tournament." Obviously, everybody in this area loves a good opportunity to get out and compete. It's springtime. It's been a long winter, so it's cool to combine something fun to look forward to, also with a great cause. So, maybe before we dive into the details of the tournament, tell us a little bit about yourself. What inspired you to do this project, this tournament, and who is it benefiting?
So I'm a senior at First Colonial High School in the Legal Studies Academy. That's just an academy that specializes in studying law throughout your 4 years. And throughout the academy, you complete a bunch of different tasks in order to graduate. So junior year, you complete a internship of your choosing, and then senior year, you do a research paper the first half of the year. Second half of the year, you apply that research into a project. So the past couple of years, I threw around some ideas, and then I ended up going with the topic of pediatric cancer. And at the beginning of the year, I was lost on where I wanted to go. And then after talking it through with some of my like friends, my mentors at school, my dad, I decided to go with a split topic. So the first half of my paper is a cost analysis on the cost of pediatric cancer treatment,
Hmm.
and it breaks it down. And then there's a cost comparison across Europe and Canada to the United States costs. And then the second half of my paper is a analysis on the social emotional effects
Hmm.
that the burdens of these costs have on families and other members.
Hmm.
And then the goal of my project, which I ended up going with hosting my fishing tournament, which was a big jump, but something I'm very excited for, in order to raise awareness to, a community that's very open to helping, their community.
Yeah.
But then also in the end, raise some money to donate back to AES, which brings in AES. AES Cancer Foundation is run by Trip Seed and his family. He lost his wife to cancer back in 2020, and he started that foundation to, again, bring awareness
Yeah.
to all things cancer related, the costs. They more specifically, and for my instance, they're doing things a little bit differently with donations, just so they benefit more the pediatric cancer side. But they pay mortgages, they pay
Oh,
rent,
wow.
they pay any type of possible loan that may need to be paid. You send in your request on their website, and it's looked over. There's some more logistics that go into it
Right.
financially, but the ultimate goal is, a lot of the time it's not the treatment that will trip up families, it's the cost outside of it, because on top of the lives that they're having to afford, they're then thrown this curveball of, here's
Like,
$100,000 a year of having to spend, and that's more than the average annual income in our area.
right.
Um, and insurance to a certain extent covers that, and part of my paper covers the maximum out-of-pocket limits in different areas.
Hmm.
But then it's not always the treatment itself, it's the extra hospital visits you're having to take your kid to
Right.
because they're sick all the time because their immune system's weakened.
Time
And
away from work where
that's
you're not
kind
able
of
to. Yep. Yeah.
And then you also have to sometimes bring in private tutors, private teachers, things for your kids. And then you also have to look at, a lot of the time there are other children involved. And then just, there's so many other factors people don't take into consideration when they're first thinking about it. They're like, oh, just the cost of treatment. But
Hmm.
there's so many more things. And there are definitely a lot of, there's some progression in how it's being handled financially and through the government, insurance companies, but there's definitely a need for the awareness, because a lot of the times you're kind of just handing money to like St. Jude's or CHKD, and you don't really know where it's going. Whereas when
Hmm.
you're able to look at it on a smaller scale in your community, you're able to pinpoint the families at these things that they're benefiting. Like I
That's
could
really
name,
cool.
yeah, I could look at 4 families that we've taken out on trips through Hooked on Hope and be like, I know that this benefited this family because they were able to get out of their home and spend a day on the water together. Probably the first time they've gotten out and done an extracurricular where they're not sitting, watching their kid go through chemo radiation.
Yeah, and that's
Um,
tough. It's an emotional drain too. So you've got your time away from work, you've got the stress of all the expenses, and then just the emotional drain of, watching your child suffer from such a tough
yeah.
disease. And so it sounds like what you're doing with, the combination of the project, both to raise awareness, which is part of why we had you on the show today, just to kind of get folks in the community to like open their ears and learn about some of the cool things that, I love about our fishing community is that it's a lot of really good men and women
Yeah.
and young women like yourself who are like, hey, this is a core group of people in our community that we know are like folks with good souls, and we want to, spread the awareness, get them together, do something cool. Trip Seed runs Bay Roamer Charters, your dad Josh, Wingman Guide Service, and so on a regular basis as a business owner, they're creating these cool experiences for people of all types to experience. And then you talked about Hooked on Hope with Mike Roby, giving those families an opportunity to go out and do something cool. And now what you're doing, which I think is awesome, is tell us the name of the fishing tournament, and obviously maybe there's a percentage or all. Is it all the proceeds? Like, how much are we giving to AES to help with the cancer, treatments, expenses, etc.?
So after a lot of consideration, I kind of had to play with some names, went back and forth, chat GPT,
Yeah,
bounced it off some teachers. I ended up with Tight Lines for Tiny Fighters.
nice.
Obviously, with the hopes of everyone is catching a lot of fish, and for our pediatric, the emphasis on the pediatric side of it. And then when it comes to the money side, all of the money raised or brought to the tournament is going to be directly given to AES. And that is very possible due to our very great local communities. So everything prize is like prizes, awards are going to be prize based and
Okay.
physical things. So right now, just to give a little, I guess, tidbit, our first place prize is sponsored by Ocean's East.
Okay. Very cool.
And everyone at Ocean's East has been very, very generous in what they're doing and what they're donating. So then the donations, those are like different objects.
Yeah.
We've also been donated a rod from, I want to name this company right.
Is it a local rod builder or
Yeah, Real
Blessed?
Real Blessed Rods,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
donated
Very
a rod
cool.
for us.
Awesome.
Which we may end up raffling off just to have some extra activity in there. But yeah, it's all been made possible from our local communities, our local donations, our local businesses, with sponsorships, things like that. So we're able to raise as much money as possible and donate it. So at the end of it, we can say X amount of money went to this organization. And then on top of it, you're having however many participants and sponsorships that you're raising awareness towards.
Yeah.
But that was the goal. I mean, everyone loves winning things, but I think that our community is great in the sense of they're going to do it for the cause rather than going out there
Money.
and some cash,
Yeah.
which is great. And in theory, we would love to open it up annually and keep it going. We've had people reach out about it, and if it goes well this year, step one
Yeah.
through the year. If it goes well, then maybe opening it up to something bigger with cash prizes. But
Right.
yeah, all the money that we raised this year is going to go directly to AES. That way, we're really supporting that, and I can show, hey, raise this much this year. Let's match it next year. Let's compete next year.
I think that's awesome. And the chance to win some prizes, which, a lot of times prizes are even cooler than cash because sometimes you get some cash and you're like, oh, maybe I'll just go, pay that credit card down or go do this, that, and the
Yeah.
other. But versus like an Ocean's East gift bag or one of Richard Wasden's, Real Blessed custom rods.
Yeah.
Those are going to be some cool things that you can take away as a memory. Plus, obviously, the bragging rights. The bragging rights is where it's at.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys will have some sort of, memento or some version of a trophy. So talk us through like how much does it cost to enter? Can we enter? Is it a team thing or is it an individual thing? How does that work?
So there are three different ways you could enter. The first way, and I'm assuming probably going to be the most common way, is a boat entry. Whatever your legal limit is on your boat for your
Okay.
boat's fishing license, your personal fishing license, and that's $150 for registration.
Okay.
Then we have the next one down, which is $75 for a kayak. That's one person on that kayak. And then our last registration is going to be per person on land. So
Okay.
whatever Virginia body of water you end up fishing in on land. And I did that especially, that'll be $25 per person. But I did that especially because I know that there's a large community of people that fish off the land.
Mhm.
And that kind of opened
Peers.
it up. Yeah. And that kind of opened it up to my classmates also. Just
Oh, that's cool.
being able to, I wanted to like open it up, and I feel like that's a very affordable way. That's like the awareness side, and raising
Yeah.
awareness. And there we have a hope to maybe get some kids through Hooked on Hope as like a bigger group to fish off land.
That's cool.
Just so we can make it a community thing, which is the goal at the end of the day, is to raise awareness and educate some people on the truth of what some of these families go through that
Yeah.
isn't seen in your CHKD or St. Jude commercials.
Right, exactly. And there's been some early mornings on Saturdays. I've been driving down Shore Drive and I see a group of people with those little claws picking up trash, just because they wanted to get together and do something good as a community.
Yeah.
So, that's cool, but getting to do something like this is also really fun. So like you're not picking up trash on the side of the road. It's $25, $75, or $150, which is a very small amount. For those of us that can afford to go fishing, we're talking pennies here, folks. Like this is a very small amount to go get to be part of something that's much bigger than yourself. Join your community, be part of Tight Lines for Tiny Fighters, and it's going to be on April the 12th. And then it's obviously got to be in Virginia waters, all the Virginia legal limits. And then you're going to have some Calcutta awards too. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And how does that work?
So right now we're working on a specific location, but there will be a captain's meeting held beforehand just for
Okay.
legality purposes and
Hmm.
just making everyone aware of what's going on. And we'll hold the Calcutta openings then. We're going to do what's looking at largest single fish by weight and then most spots.
Oh, that's a cool one. So
Yeah,
yeah,
which
you
is a
don't.
fun one.
Yeah, that's really neat. Now the Calcuttas, are those going to be a separate cash entry from the main entry?
Yeah,
Okay,
so I'm not going to give a number to it because we don't know
sure.
the exact number. But yeah, those will be separate. Those will come separately, probably through that same payment link.
Okay,
But at captain's meeting, just to ensure that there's enough people to, I mean, if you enter the Calcutta, you win your own money back.
true.
Great
Yeah.
those are the one thing that will be cash prizes is Calcuttas.
Okay, got it. So the main event is going to be the fundraiser, and we're going to have prizes for those first, second, and third places. And then separately would be the Calcutta divisions, which if you do want to enter cash for the chance to win cash, that would be your avenue to do so. And the weigh-ins are going to be held where?
At Long Bay Point Bait and Tackle Shop, so right there on
Perfect.
the water. They've been gracious enough to give us that spot for the afternoon. We're looking at for times, lines in 7 a.m.
Okay.
and then weigh-ins by 2 o'clock.
Okay.
And then from there, obviously awards, things like that. For ties and stuff, it'll be
Mhm.
done by first weight in.
Got
So
it.
when you're looking at your timing and your efficiency, if you want to get out there earlier and give yourself a little bit of a better shot, you
Right.
know, get out there early. Early bird gets the worm kind of thing. But yeah,
Absolutely.
any Virginia body of water. So as long as your fish are at the scales by 2 p.m.
Okay, got it. So we just got to be in line at the scales by 2 p.m.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna stress this because we kind of chatted about it a little bit offline before we hit record. But rules are important to read and comprehend. So I'm sure you're gonna have some links to the rules that can be read through, and then I'm sure at the captain's meeting there'll be some sort of sign off to where we can attest, like, hey, we read and understand these rules. Obviously, guys, this is for a great cause to raise money. So do the right thing, read the rules, play fair, have a good time, and hopefully you'll win a prize or maybe some Calcutta money. But you can at least say, "Hey, I contributed to raising money for folks that are in a much more difficult spot than I am." Being near to somebody, especially a child that's going through any sort of illness, especially cancer. Unless you've been close to it, I don't think you can really understand it. And so, you shared about Trip, and his wife, that's only 5 years ago, what a tragic experience to go through. And but that's your wife. Now you're dealing with another adult in that scenario, but a child is just, it amplifies the difficulty level so much, because they don't understand, why am I back in the hospital, mom, dad, why am I getting poked again, why are these things happening? And so if we're able to do this together as a community, raise some money and help take some of that stress off those parents so they can be more present and available to their kids during that time, it's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah. You definitely get to walk away. Money, no money, no prize, no prize. You get to walk away, feeling a little bit better, understanding things a little bit more, having a little bit of empathy, which is a beautiful thing about mankind in itself is
Yeah.
empathy and respect for other people. And you can't really, like you said, unless you've walked through that fire or been anywhere near those shoes, you really have no idea what goes on. And I think that that's why it was so eye-opening to me. Summer after summer, I'm working on the boat and I'm showing up and meeting brand new families I would have never met beforehand, and then
Mhm.
learning their stories. And sometimes they're successful, and sometimes they're not. And
Mhm.
sometimes you have to walk back up to that family the following year, and that kid isn't there. Or the
Mhm.
next year, you get to come back, and they look 10 times better than they did the year before. And it's definitely a bittersweet thing, but it opens your eyes to the world, and that things happen outside of your life, even if they don't happen to you.
Right. And if you were in those shoes, you would just hope and pray that, the good Lord would send somebody along to help you out. And you mentioned something a second ago that just kind of clicked the light bulb for me. So you've worked on your dad's boat,
Correct. Yeah.
and your dad, Josh Bourne, Wingman Guide Service, they participate with Hooked on Hope, correct?
Yeah.
So
So
you've gotten to meet these families and meet
yeah.
these kids that are dealing with pediatric cancer.
Yeah. So that's how I even got into fishing was working with Hooked on Hope to start off. I volunteered a couple of days out of the week in the summer. Lower stress when it came to like the fishing aspect of it because it really was, get out there, have fun with the
Yeah.
families. And that's really how I got introduced to mating in general.
Hmm.
And then from there, I worked a bunch of more trips, and that's how I've opened up, my world to this side who I am, this career path of mine, possibly things like that.
Yeah.
And how I've made so many of these connections, and which wouldn't, if I didn't have these connections, if I hadn't done the work in the past years, I wouldn't be in the shoes to, even make this possible, because
Right.
it really takes a village to make it happen. But
Yeah.
yeah, I started working on my dad's boat and then started working with Trip at Bay Roamer Charters, which is how we made that connection. My dad and Trip were good friends. My dad went out on a limb, put in a good word for me.
She
Um,
won't let you down, Trip. I trained her well.
no, and Trip claims I'm the best man in Virginia Beach. So
Oh, okay. That's a big claim. You guys
he'll,
all heard it
he'll
here first. Those of you that have, mates that are struggling to put things together, reach out to Ava now. She's in high demand. But jokes aside, so obviously this has been your passion. This has been the accumulation of, several months of work, your 4 years in high school with your, tell me again what it was, the
Legal Studies Academy.
Legal Studies Academy, which is a cool aspiration in of itself. And then this is your big senior project. So you're going to be putting a ton of work and time into this. Folks that are listening, we really want them to connect with you with Tight Lines for Tiny Fighters. What's the best way for them to find all the information out and stay up to date with updates about the event? It is in exactly a month and a day from today. What's the best way for them to find the information and keep up to date?
Through the Instagram, which is at Tight Lines for Tiny Fighters. That's also connected. Everything's collaborated through my personal Instagram and then Wingman Guide Service and Bay Roamer Charters.
Okay.
But best way to reach out through those DMs, the direct messages through the Instagram. They're completely open, so everything comes through. And then from there, if there's personal communication needed, super easy, usually through email or text message.
Okay.
Um,
Perfect.
Within a day or two, everybody's gotten an answer. All the registration forms are on there. Same thing. There's two different links. There's the sponsorship
Okay.
form, and that one's in big letters that says sponsorship.
Yep.
And then there's the other form just for registration. Same thing, Google form at the bottom. It directs you to the payment link, which is in the AES website.
Okay. Perfect.
Then,
And I've got both of those links. We'll drop those in the show notes as well as the link
yep,
to the Instagram. And
yep,
then I think it sounds like between those three things, that's everything that folks would need to know to keep in touch.
yep.
Is there an email that they can contact you with as well? Or is that
If
just through?
there's a problem, just go straight into those direct messages, and then from
Perfect.
there, I just get the personal email and handle it myself. I've had to
Got
hand
it.
register a couple people. It's not a problem at all. And then sponsorships, we get into contact for logos, names, information like that.
Perfect. And anybody could become a sponsor for any reason. So, anybody listening that has a business or a brand or anything, you mentioned Oceans East, Real Blessed. Those are some great local folks. Of course, Long Bay Point and Tackle for hosting it. If anybody out there has a business and wants to be a part, definitely go check out the Instagram, click the sponsorship registration link, and get in touch with Ava and get yourself set up. So, Ava, I'm really excited for this event. I think it's awesome that you're doing this. You're making your dad and the fishing community very proud. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that would be important for folks that want to participate to know?
Nothing. I think we've definitely gotten all the information, but it's a bigger cause. It's a thing that's bigger than yourself. You pray every day that nobody has to go through this kind of thing, but it's the world, and the tests that people face are
Mhm.
their own, but even a little bit of knowledge shared and money raised even makes a world of difference in some of these families' lives. And just
Yeah,
acknowledging the seasons and the battles that they're walking through, can make or break some of these families. So take that to heart, you know,
yep,
walk away feeling like a better person after it, share it with your friends, share it with your buddies. At the end of the day, it's for a cause bigger than yourself, and any support, a share on the Instagram is very deeply appreciated.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to encourage everybody listening to go find it, share it. Let's blow this thing up and have a lot of fun with it along the way. Ava, it's been a real pleasure to meet you, chat with you. We look forward to seeing how this thing goes, and we will get this thing spread out as much as we can. We'll post it in the groups and share it around. So thanks again for being on.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, folks, that's going to wrap up a really cool segment learning about all things tight lines for tiny fighters and Ava and her passion for this project. Y'all, please go look into the show notes right now, find the links, click, share, get registered, get sponsored, and we hope that it's going to be a really, really great turnout. So we're going to wrap up this segment. Stick around for a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back with you. It's time we talked about catching some serious savings. Imagine harnessing the power of the sun to cut your energy bills and having a roof that's built to last. Convert Solar and Roofing specializes in top-notch solar installations and durable roofing solutions that stand up to the toughest elements. Their solar panels are designed to maximize efficiency, and their roofs are built with premium materials to ensure long-lasting protection. Whether you're out on the water or at home, their expert team ensures you're covered. As fellow anglers in the Lower Chesapeake Bay, the team at Convert Solar and Roofing cares about both sustainable living and sustainable fishing. So reel in those savings today and visit www.convert-solar.com or call 757-44-SOLAR. Make your energy and roof as reliable as your favorite fishing lure. Call Convert Solar and Roofing today. Looking to protect your dock with materials built to last? Shoreline Plastics has you covered. As leaders in composite marine dock pilings and building materials, they engineer solutions that stand the test of time. Their EcoPile is the ultimate composite piling designed for longevity and eco-friendliness, ensuring your dock remains strong for years. And if you need a quick fix for worn pilings, try Snap Jacket, a durable solution that restores and extends their life. Visit shorelineplastics.com to discover how you can elevate your next marine project. Shoreline Plastics, where durability meets innovation. All right, y'all, that's going to wrap it up this week. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember, to get your free APCO Camo Sunglasses Cleaner Cloth, text the acronym LCBFR to 779-345-2918 to get your promo code and be added to our email list so we can send you the new show each week. You guys keep on whacking them and be safe out there.